When the Albanian farmer threw his old donkey into a cage with a starving wolf, he was certain that by morning, only bones would remain of the poor animal. The predator hadn't eaten all day. His eyes burned with hunger, and his jaws were ready to tear apart any prey. But what the man saw at dawn shocked not only him, but soon amazed the entire world. In the mountainous regions of Albania, where harsh living conditions force people to fight for survival, a story unfolded that turned local residents' understanding of predator nature upside down. This happened in a small village near the city of Shkodër, where every farmer knew the value of each piece of bread and every domestic animal. Mehmet Kola, a 40-year-old farmer with hands roughened by work, was considered one of the most practical people in the area. He never wasted money and always found ways to profit from any situation. When he stumbled upon a wolf trap in the forest near his home with a trapped animal thrashing inside, the man saw an opportunity to entertain neighbors and earn some money. The wolf was young, but already an impressive male with silvery fur and piercing yellow eyes. The animal was clearly suffering from hunger. His ribs protruded through his coat, and his gaze was full of desperation. Mehmet built a sturdy cage from thick wooden beams and iron bars, transferred his prisoner there, and set up the structure in his yard. News of the captured wolf spread through the village with incredible speed. People came in whole families to see the wild beast. Children watched with bated breath as the predator paced his cramped prison, while adults told frightening stories about wolf packs that descended from the mountains in winter searching for food. The first few days, Mehmet dutifully fed his prisoner fresh meat, buying beef at the local market. But very soon the expenses began to burden him. The wolf consumed 4 to 7 pounds of meat daily, and this was serious money for a simple farmer. Besides, the animal was becoming increasingly aggressive, lunging at the cage bars every time someone approached, and his growling made even the bravest visitors shudder. It was then that Mehmet came up with an idea that seemed brilliant in its simplicity. In his yard lived an old donkey named Dido who was finishing out his days. The animal could no longer work, walked poorly, and only ate hay without bringing any benefit to the household. Why not solve two problems at once? Get rid of the useless donkey and feed the wolf. Dido was indeed ancient by donkey standards. He had already turned 22 years old. Once he had faithfully carried heavy grain sacks to the mill, helped plow the small field, and even gave rides to Mehmet's children. But years had taken their toll. The animal's back had bent, his coat had gone gray, and his eyes had clouded with age. In the evening, Mehmet lured the donkey into the cage with the wolf, locking the door with a heavy bolt. He was certain that by morning everything would be over, and was already planning which household animal to sacrifice next, perhaps the old hen that had stopped laying eggs. But the morning scene exceeded all his expectations. Dido stood in the corner of the cage, alive and unharmed, calmly chewing hay that lay scattered on the floor. The wolf lay in the opposite corner, showing not the slightest sign of aggression. There wasn't a scratch or tooth mark on the donkey's body. The predator hadn't even attempted to attack his potential victim. Mehmet decided the wolf simply wasn't hungry and continued the experiment. He stopped giving the animals any food, expecting that hunger would force the predator to act according to his instincts. One day passed, then a second, then a third. The wolf was clearly weakening, his movements becoming slow, but he still showed no aggression toward his cage mate. Moreover, amazing relationships began to develop between the animals. The wolf stopped growling and pacing around the cage. The donkey, who had initially trembled with fear, calmed down and even began sharing hay and water with the predator. The animals lay down to sleep next to each other like old friends, and Dido even allowed the wolf to warm himself by pressing against his warm side during cold nights. By the end of the week, the entire village knew about the animal's strange behavior. People came to see this miracle of nature, not believing their own eyes. Women wept looking at the emaciated animals. Men shook their heads, unable to explain what was happening. Someone among the visitors took several photographs of this incredible friendship, and it was these pictures that later traveled around the world, making the story globally famous. The photographs clearly showed how the gray-brown old donkey and large wolf peacefully coexisted in the same enclosure, defying all laws of nature. The local priest, Father Marco, declared this a divine sign and urged Mehmet to free the animals. Public pressure had its effect. The farmer opened the cage and released the wolf into the forest. The predator slowly headed toward the forest depths, turning back several times to look at his unusual friend. Dedo remained to live in the yard, receiving an unexpected reprieve from death. But the most amazing part began afterward. Every few days, the wolf appeared at the forest edge near Mehmet's farm. He would cautiously approach the pasture where the donkey grazed, and they would meet like old friends. The other animals would scatter in panic at the sight of the predator, but Dedo would calmly approach his friend, and they would stand together as if conversing in a language only they understood. These meetings continued until the donkey's death, who died a natural death 2 years after being freed from the cage. After that, the wolf no longer appeared near the village, as if understanding that his friend was no more. The story of Dedo and the nameless wolf became a legend in the Albanian mountains, reminding people that even in the animal world, relationships can exist that transcend basic survival instincts.